We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like the content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your psychiatrist, your priest, your significant other. Welcome in to the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirkouty Avenue. Do not be afraid. You know how this works. I do a monologue. I get to your comments. I get to your phone calls. You guys and gals, you run the show. Today, first of all, we're going to be going over a Brad Crawford 247 Sports article. He speculates on where these ACC schools would go. The Magnificent Seven. If ACC actually did implode, and I think we're a ways away from that happening, but if it does implode, where will these schools go? And I'm going to go through the article, and I got to say, I think there is if the ACC implodes by dissolution, by someone cracking the ACC grant of rights, and I'm looking at you, Notre Dame. I'm looking at you, kid. If that should happen, I think, is there a chance? Is there a possibility that a couple of those schools in the ACC, if they lend their support, if they said, okay, let's get this thing over with, would they support the possibility of pocketing $120 million in exit fee cash and then to go to the Big 12, knowing that you're going to be part of college football years down the road? You're going to be in the room. You're going to have access to the college football playoffs. Is that enough for some of these ACC schools? Let's say a Pittsburgh, possibly Syracuse, or maybe even a Virginia Tech. even though they're part of the Magnificent Seven, let's say they don't have a spot in the SEC, the Big Ten, would some of these ACC schools say, okay, give me the $120 million in cash if you Magnificent Seven and let's say Notre Dame dissolve this conference, we won't take you to court. The ACC conference will take $120 million. That will help them close the offices, whatever. Is that a possibility? Could that happen? Let me know in the comments section. Let me know if that is viable. I have been kind of pushing that possibility away, but I'm starting to wonder. I am starting to wonder if there can be some built-in incentive for some of these ACC schools to throw their hands in the air and say, okay, we don't want to be left out of the college football playoff access. We'll take $120 million. If these networks can slide us into the Big 12 conference, I don't know who's going to pay for that. I don't know what network's going to pay for that. It's going to have to be mostly ESPN, paying basically the same as they do in the ACC, but a little bit more on that tier 1, get them into the Big 12. Then with Fox, would they pinch in a little bit, or would those schools have to come in a little bit at a discount to the Big 12 when it comes to media payouts? But then again, they're pocketing $120 million per school. Could that be a possibility? We'll see. We're going to read the article on the Brad Crawford here in a second, 247 Sports. Then I also want to talk about Act 11 in this Pac-12 saga. We are now in Act 11. Act 10 is over. It's over. Act 11, who is on the stage? Let's talk about that first. Then we'll get into the ACC article. And again, PATC community, keep your head on a swivel. There could be breaking news. Remember, the ACC meetings had another day of meetings today. The athletic directors, the commissioner, nobody spoke coming out of that ACC meeting last night. They had their head down. They went through the hallway. They went through the elevator. They were gone. They didn't say a word to the reporters out there. A lot of ACC beat writers are there. National reporters are there. None of them said a word. Are they going to say anything at all after these meetings today? It could pop up on Twitter. So keep your head on a swivel. Let us know if there's any breaking news in the comments section or with phone calls later in the show. So let's do that. Keep your head on a swivel. Okay. You know what? Let's start. I'm really perplexed. Let's post this first. We got a lot to get through today, so you bear with me, all. Okay. Brad Denny. This was posted just a little bit before we went live. Pac-12 nuggets from Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson. I'm very confident in the long-term viability. The 10 schools are solid. Feels it will be summertime, July or perhaps August. Holy smokes, when the media deal is announced. Then the grant of rights are signed. Then focus will turn to expansion. What in the blazes is going on? If you remember, again, I'm going to read this one more time. Athletic Director Ray Anderson, in an interview that's going to get posted later, I guess this evening, says, I'm very confident in the long-term viability. The 10 schools are solid. Feels like it will be summertime, July or perhaps August, when the media deal is announced, then grant of rights is signed. Ray Anderson was the guy who said a couple weeks after the January 30th Pac-12 meeting, he says, we need to see a deal get done by middle of March. Now he's saying he's cool with a July or perhaps August when the media deal is announced. In our last live show, at Peek Around the Corner. We or was it 2 live shows ago? I do not remember. We talked about who was on the stage for Act 10. What did we say? What did we say where Arizona State was? They were not an actor on the. They were not an actor on the stage. They were not in the front row. Were they even in the building? I either had them out of the building or in the last row. I don't quite remember. But yeah, we got the Arizona State money perch. We got word of this weeks ago. Arizona State is not anywhere close in the same phase of this as at Arizona and Colorado. They are not. And what's interesting about this, what is very interesting about this is they do, according to our Arizona State money perch, we said this a couple live shows ago, they do have some institutional support. I mean, there are people in the Board of Regents who see the writing on the wall, but they, because of relationships or lack of relationships with the Big 12 and some other issues, they're not in the building. They're not in the building for Act 10. They're not in the building for Act 11. And they better be very careful. We're going to get into it. Now, we just got some news from Bobby Madden. I'm going to post it right now here. Thank you, Bobby, for coming in to Peek Around the Corner. You're keeping your head on a swivel. From David Hale, ESPN. Per one ACC athletic director, very close on a revenue sharing plan that would reward on-field success. Any plan would then go to the presidents for approval, would not impact TV revenue through 2-2. I'm not sure what the 2-2 means. Again, thank you so much for Bobby for that breaking news from David Hale. Very close to a revenue sharing plan. It'll be fascinating to look at it. And of course, I don't think it's a solution to what their main issue is. But thanks again, Bobby, for showing us that. Back to the Ray Anderson, back to Act 11 here. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Ray Anderson saying he's confident in long-term viability. There's going to be a deal announced probably July or August. Obviously, they're nowhere close to a Pac-12 media deal, and that's what we believed. We're swinging into Act 11. If that is true, how do they even get San Diego State? San Diego State would not be a candidate for expansion for 2024 because their exit fee to get out of the Mountain West goes from something like $17 million to get out of the Mountain West before July 1st, all the way up to $45 million after July 1st of this year to get into the conference to get into the Pac-12 of 2024. More than double, less than triple. I think those are the correct figures. Here's the deal. This is what in the hot bubble of action. Again, we can't go into full details of what happened. Not yet, but the time is a-coming. And it's coming a little bit sooner than I thought. But it's a-coming where we're going to talk about what happened when the Pac-12 received a shot in the solar plexus. And they're still standing as of May 16th. But now the latest intel that we received, the shot landed. The event definitely did happen, and we're going to give you the full details when all this breaks open. But it had its effect that the Big 12 wanted. And we believe that Act 12 will begin in a couple weeks, right around June 1st. The actors on the stage in Act 11, Colorado's still in the middle of that stage. Arizona has moved from the edge of the stage towards the middle of the stage. George Kliavkoff is there. Brett Yormark is there. ESPN is there. There's a Fox assistant on the stage. And in the front row, there's Oregon, a Fox executive in Washington, sitting in the front row as Oregon and Washington are on their phones. That's the scene for Act 11. Arizona State is not in the building. Another school that is not in the building. It could change. It could change. But another school that's not in the building is Gonzaga. They got in the car and they drove out of the parking lot. In the back row, there's a fella in the middle of the back row with a notebook, taking notes. And that's Mr. Yukon. He's in the back row. He has come into the theater. He's sitting in the back row taking notes. Gonzaga has left. They got in the car. They drove home. Arizona State's not in the building. Colorado's on the middle of the stage. Arizona, they were on the edge. They've taken a few steps to the center of the stage. That's where Act 11 is. I think it's going to go on for 2 weeks. Then Act 12 is going to hit somewhere around June 1st. The hot bubble of action happened. It was an event. The shot landed in the solar plexus. The Pac-12 still standing. But now we're starting to get steam on the result of it all. And again, we believe that the Pac-12 will get poached again. I find it, we're still in that belief. 6.5 point favorites. We might take it down to 5.5 in the next week. Maybe 4.5 the week after that. But Act 12 is going to happen around June 1st. One more thing in regards to the Pac-12, and then we'll get to the ACC. Ross Dellinger, Utah is not in the building either as of Act 11. Arizona State's not in the building. Gonzaga left. And UConn's in the back row taking notes. They've got a notebook and a pen. They're taking notes. Ross Dellinger, Sports Illustrated, great reporter, broke the story yesterday morning. It was only yesterday morning. It was only yesterday morning. Mr. Monkey, because I want to be consistent. I said that any day, any weeks after May 15th, we were going to bring down that points. We're going to bring down that. So we're going to be consistent. We're not going to change it. And if the Pac-12 can get through the June 1st, the first week of June hurdle, if they can get through the Act 12 hurdle, then the line's going to come down some more. So we're just being consistent, Mr. Monkey says. Now, what was I saying? Oh, Ross Dellinger broke the news about the Magnificent Seven. Brett McMurphy comes in from Action Network, does an elbow drop from the top rope, and names the 7 schools. Ross Dellinger later went on a podcast with himself and Dave Wenzel and Pat Forty, and they had a long discussion. I don't have a link provided in the description box, but go ahead and Google it. Go ahead and Google it and listen to the podcast. It goes about 45 minutes long. Listen to Ross Dellinger say about the ACC, of course, but listen to what he said about the Pac-12 situation. Listen to his words. I don't even want to paraphrase it, but it's Pac-12 is extremely vulnerable right now, as we said, especially since the hot bubble of action that happened somewhere around May 6th, May 7th. So, I'm just throwing that out there. Make sure you listen to that podcast from yesterday. Now, in regards to the ACC, let's put up this article. We're going to give it a read. If I can find it. Now, this is just one person's speculation. Okay, we're just speculating here, guys and gals. This is Brad Crawford, 247. I like his articles. You guys know I came from the 247 family, so to speak. So I want to read your comments. I want to listen to your phone calls later in the show in regards to what he says, and what do you think is possibilities of happening in the ACC? If it does implode somewhere down the road, where will these schools go? Plotting a new course where ACC schools could be headed if they leave the conference. Several ACC teams are reportedly exploring grant of right contracts in an effort to leave the conference. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this part. We know all of this. This is really not... What I really want to get to is, where does Brad Crawford, according to sources he's talked to, I just want to show you all this, where he believes where of these magnificent 7 ACC schools, where would they go? Virginia Tech, according to Brad Crawford and people he spoke to, best fit for Virginia Tech leaves the ACC is the Big Ten. What we're hearing, there was considerable buzz about the Hokies joining the SEC the last time the conference expanded in 2012 with realignment, but it didn't happen. Maryland left for the Big Ten at the time. Florida State wasn't shy about its interest in a move to the Big 12. The SEC getting Virginia Tech would create a new recruiting pipeline through Virginia and reaches into Washington, D.C. television market. However, 2 sources close to Virginia Tech each said the Big Ten was more likely the destination when reached on Tuesday. One source told 247 Sports, in terms of checking off the boxes, a potential future relationship with the Big Ten and Virginia Tech fills out the stat sheet. Either the SEC or the Big Ten would fit Virginia Tech, but from the university side, they seem to be more modeled off the Big Ten with enrollment and structure, the source said. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole analyst of every school and where Brad Crawford thinks they're going to go. We'll shorten this up a bit. There's a link provided if you want to read the whole article. But his sources says Virginia Tech, they would be, he thinks they would leave for the Big Ten. Now, I don't know if the Big Ten would be interested, to be honest with you. I do not see a 20-team Big Ten conference with a Virginia Tech. Maybe a 24-team conference. Maybe a 22-team conference. I do not see a 24-team Big Ten. I do not see a 20 Big Ten team conference with Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech they're a really good research university. Really good. I mean, I think they have more expenditures than University of Virginia when it comes to research. More research dollars, even though Virginia Tech is not AAU. Virginia Cavaliers. Best fit if Virginia leaves the ACC. Again, the Big Ten. So according to sources that Brad Crawford is talking to at 247, Both Virginia schools believe they would be a better fit for the Big Ten. What we are hearing, Virginia holds many of the same factors that make Virginia Tech an attractive option for the Big Ten, along with another the Hokies do not. Virginia is one of the 5 ACC schools distinguished as an Association of American Universities, AAU, which is a prominent academic association of leading comprehensive research universities. Wahoo's 247 Insider told 247 Sports that Virginia's AAU is a primary factor that potentially makes the Cavaliers and the Big Ten a great fit in the future. Virginia's men's basketball program would immediately strengthen the Big Ten as well. So the people Brad Crawford are speaking to at Virginia Tech and Virginia, the Virginia schools believe they're a better fit for the Big Ten. NC State Wolfpack is a little different. Best fit for NC State if they left the ACC is the SEC. Raleigh, North Carolina is one of the fastest growing cities in America, second only to Charlotte and the Carolinas in terms of population. The TV market ranks inside the top 25, and that keeps going higher and higher on the list. It's ahead of Indianapolis, Nashville, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Jacksonville. NC State is one of the smallest brands within the reported Secret Seven, the Magnificent Seven, that is itching to leave the ACC, but would offer the SEC an opportunity to creep into North Carolina if the Tar Heels are unavailable. I agree with that one. NC State, SEC, if there is a home in either the Big Ten or the SEC for North Carolina State, it would have to be the SEC. Clemson, obvious one, SEC. Don't even know if I really need to even read this analysis. Clemson routinely comes up in SEC conversations. Of course, University of South Carolina is already in the SEC. They might be a vote against Clemson. But yeah, Clemson, SEC, I agree with that. North Carolina, best fit if UNC leaves the ACC. According to Brad Crawford, 247 Sports, it's the Big Ten. Last summer, when conference expansion within the Big Ten hit a fever pitch, with the additions of USC and UCLA, the two most talked about programs who could be next were UNC and Notre Dame. The Tar Heels are well positioned in the expansion era to choose where they want to go, if they're able to get out of the ACC situation. Multiple sources told 247 Sports the Big Ten would love to creep into the Carolinas and expand its geographic footprint further south. This one, to me, is a complete, total toss-up. The SEC is going to go after North Carolina if they become available, or I should say when they do. SEC and ESPN is going to go after North Carolina with everything they've got. Florida State, according to 247 Sports, the best fit for Florida State, SEC. What we're hearing, the Seminoles were one of the first ACC programs to look into the exit fee, grant of rights, contracts. We reported that in December 26th of 2022. That things were brewing. 2 months later, Mike Alford spoke on it. 2 months later, February, I believe it was 24th, after we disclosed it, December 26th on this channel, we were told to stand down because other people were working on the story. Florida State, SEC, I do agree. Again, the Big Ten would do what they could to try to get Florida State to land them. But if they couldn't land Florida State, the Big Ten, I'm sure, would land Miami of Florida. I'm a big Miami of Florida, big Miami of Florida Big Ten. Of all the ACC schools that the Big Ten would target, I think this is the most gettable. Combination of Big Ten wanting them and being able to get them, Miami, Florida to the Big Ten, just it makes all the sense in the world. The Big Ten badly wants a program in Florida for obvious reasons. Miami was one of the couple ACC programs the Big Ten initially considered last summer during the realignment extravaganza, joining Florida State and UNC. I don't think SEC is going to have any interest in Miami or Florida. I think their interest is going to go after Florida State to pair up with Florida for obvious reasons. So I think Miami or Florida to the Big Ten is probably the one lock of all of this speculation. And there's more to the article. Go ahead and give it a read. Again, there's a link provided in the description box. Let's get to your comments. Let's get to your phone calls. I want to thank everybody coming in on a Tuesday afternoon. Again, put your head on a swivel. Give us the latest reports coming out of the message boards or Twitter in regards to the ACC meeting. We already had some breaking report from Bobby Madden. I appreciate it. Mr. Monkey says, Greg, please expand on Gonzaga. Okay, I will. I think for now Gonzaga has left the building, has left the theater, have gotten in the car, turned the ignition, and have rolled out of the parking lot. I think there is some issues that have yet to be resolved in the nature of a Gonzaga and Big 12 relationship that hasn't been figured out. I think things are pretty cold right now from what we are hearing. I know this comes as a surprise to many. It came as a surprise to me. But that's how we see it at Peek Around the Corner. Could that change? Of course. Of course. You remember a few live shows ago, we talked about how Arizona State wasn't even in the building anymore. We got that information like 4 different ways. And then, you just saw the Ray Anderson comments before we came on live, and then I showed it to him. I can show it to you guys again. There's a lot of people coming in here. Ray Anderson, I'm very confident. This was just today. I'm very confident in the long-term viability. The 10 schools are solid. Feels like it will be a summertime, July, or perhaps August when the media deal is announced. Then the grant of rights signed. Then the focus will turn to expansion. Arizona State is nowhere near that stage. What's going on right now? And how do I say this? I hope they know what they're doing. I hope they know what they're doing in the leadership of Arizona State. Our Arizona State money perch, I can't even read you his last letter. It's not that Gonzaga got spooked. Gonzaga and the Big 12 are not seeing eye to eye on some issues. So we can only tell you what we believe to be true. We believe this to be true, and we believe they got in the car, they drove out of the parking lot. They're not part of Act 11. Act 12, around June 1st, let's see if they get back in the building. Or even back on stage. Well, they haven't been really on the stage yet since we've been doing our play here at Peek Around the Corner. But they're not in the building. UConn, they're in the back row taking notes. Oregon and Washington, they've got the Fox executives sitting between them. They're in the front row. And Oregon and Washington are on their phones on stage. Colorado's in the middle. And Arizona has creeped from the edge of the stage a few more steps to the center of the stage. Act 11 is going to go about 2 weeks long. Act 12 begins June 1st. This is a 14-act play, we believe, here at Peek Around the Corner. So we're getting there, guys and gals. We're getting there. The hot bubble of action, I haven't been able to go into detail. Well, I expect sometime during Act 12, I will be able to go into detail about exactly what happened. With details that many people, I will go into details as much as I possibly can with protecting the sources. Again, forget everything I'm saying. I'm just a fat guy from Minnesota. Listen to Ross Dillinger in that podcast yesterday when he talked about the Pac-12. Listen carefully to what he says are the chances of the Pac-12 keeping together, not imploding. Yeah, they're still hanging by a thread. Okay, let's get to your comments, then to your phone calls. Let's get right to it. A lot of people in here. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Way behind. Gonzaga's gone. That's the scoop. They're out of the parking lot as of right now. I don't have time to go through all the acts right now, Kyle. Maybe I'll write it up in outline form and we'll go through it together. What is Act 11? Act 11 is preparing for Act 12. And Act 12 is going to be Act 12, starting about June 1st. There's going to be some action scenes. It's action scenes. It's not going to be just conversations. It's going to be an action in Act 12. That's what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. Gonzaga has to be patient. They've been patient. There are issues between them and the Big 12. They are not seeing eye to eye in some big major points. So it's gone cold for the moment. It's gone cold for the moment. I don't know what... Ryan Thomas seems to have some information. Hopefully he gives us a call about Apple. Okay, let's get to your phone call. I will post up your comments. If you do want your comment read as soon as possible, we do a deep dive on it. Just attach a small donation. Subscribe to our ever-growing channel and share this video right now through social media. I thank you so very much. But let's get to the phone calls. Again, the number is 763-260-1333. Thank you for joining us all here.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. I'm so happy that Immaculate's calling, and I'm so happy that the phone lines are actually working. The floor is yours, Brian. Go ahead.
I'm really surprised I got through first. I thought Ryan was going to kill me on it. He's always first. He's got it. How much are you willing to let me say? Because I told Opie on a different show that I was going to lay out the entire SEC, but I don't know if you want me to do that or not.
You can do whatever you want. This is your time.
All right.
You run the... When you guys call, you guys run the show. So go ahead.
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible.
Yep.
I think you're going to be busy. All right. So I've told you, I think this is going to 25, and people think that's crazy talk. But when the Big Ten and the SEC get to 25, and you got the Big 12 right behind them, they're going to have all the power in negotiations with networks, and you're going to see numbers with the networks that are going to blow people's minds. So that being said, 5-team divisions of the SEC that's becoming. So this will maybe understand how all 7 of those schools can all be going to the SEC. That's unfortunately what I'm saying. I would love to see Miami in the Big Ten. I just don't see the SEC allowing it to happen. They're going to take both FSU and Miami. So the SEC West, you're going to see a division of Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. If the SEC and the Big Ten make a deal in Missouri to the Big Ten, we can go into that later. Oklahoma State for their stadium and for the rivalry with Oklahoma, with Arkansas. The division with Alabama is going to be Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, and LSU. The big division is going to be Georgia, Miami, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. And that's where Miami and Florida State are just not going to go anywhere else, because in that division, they're going to lock down Florida, lock down Georgia, not let the Big Ten in. Unfortunately, I don't know. What do you think about that? I know you want Miami, and so do I.
Well, it's not about one. I just think I think if out of all the ACC schools, I think it's the most. I think it's the lock to happen. I cannot see the SEC having 3 Florida schools. They're already. They've got to expand to different markets. Florida doesn't like Miami, Florida. There's a lot of stuff. I don't see SEC with all 3 Florida schools. I think the Big Ten gets into Florida. That's what Fox Sports, the only Power 5 product they have, and they didn't have any Florida product beforehand, was UCF into the Big 12. They're going to want to go after Miami, Florida. So
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
But that would be, in my opinion, a mistake of the SEC to allow the Big Ten into Georgia Tech and Miami. If Big Ten can get those and get into Atlanta and get into Miami, that's a big mistake on the SEC's part. I hope they make that mistake, but we'll see. But that division would just be a lot of fun to watch, just because it would finally turn Florida into what it should be. The Mid-Atlantic Division, North Carolina State, South Carolina, Clemson, and Virginia. And if that happens, watch South Carolina actually eclipse Clemson. That would be my prediction on that. That's pretty wild and crazy. But I think Clemson becomes kind of mediocre in the SEC, and that's just where they belong.
Yeah.
Then in the North, you'd have Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt. And then you got one more to throw in there. I still tend to think Louisville, but Kentucky's probably not going to want that. Their athletic department is huge.
Yeah, that's a lot of doubling up of, you got 3 SEC schools in Florida, and now you have 2 SEC schools in Kentucky. I think SEC is going to be very, very selective. And I think it's all about growing their markets. So I think they're going to get into North Carolina and the state of North Carolina, get in the state of Virginia.
Yep.
And they're going to go after Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah. I've never seen the SEC as a market oriented approach. They're a brand oriented approach, and they market that to the entire country.
Well, they went and grabbed Missouri. That was a market approach.
Yeah, but that was kind of like at the time. I think they're going to let Missouri go, personally. I think because Missouri fits in wonderfully in a division with the Big Ten, which, as Monkey was asking earlier, which would include Kansas, whereas they just don't have a lot. Like if you put Missouri with Kansas, with Iowa, with Nebraska, and here's the big one with Colorado. Colorado joins the Big 12 and then later joins the Big 10. You have yourself an entirely contiguous division that brings together old rivalries. As an Iowa guy, it kind of hurts inside to see, but actually we have more in common with those schools and their college towns than we do with Minnesota and Wisconsin, unfortunately. But anyways, the SEC one is what really matters right now with the ACC, because I think that entire 7 is actually in there talking together, because this does involve, to a degree, how much money would ESPN be willing to put forward, because this is a huge jump for the SEC. Like they would have to put out a lot of money to make this happen. But we've talked consolidation and the power of consolidation and how much more that makes all of these programs worth if they're consolidated together and you can bring them all together for scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think that is. Like, yeah, they're talking gore. Yeah, they're talking possible dissolution. But they're really talking ESPN. Are you willing to pay us all if we all jump to the SEC? And I think the answer is yes. They're not in business with the Big Ten anymore. If this happens, they're not in business with the ACC. They're just in business with the SEC, and they don't even have to compete with the CBS anymore. So, it's not that they don't have money. They just need to spend it better. And if all of their ratings go up because of this, people might be surprised at how much money is there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm looking at some of the contacts, and I know people aren't going to believe in all this, but before this was announced, no one believed that there was any type of organization within the ACC to challenge any of this or to possibly even dissolve the conference if they needed to. But it's there because the reason to do so is there. So
got it.
I just wanted to call in you and let you think on that one for a little bit. I know
Beautiful.
This is probably very shocking to people that this is happening. And most people want to see things before they believe.
It shocked me that there were 7 schools meeting cloak and dagger style 4 months.
Yeah.
So, yep.
And I saw your video we did. I was like, I wish I could have called in to talk to him, but I didn't want to call you out on it because I respect you. I was like, I don't want to call out on it.
No, but, I happily took the L on that. We had no idea. I don't know if anybody had the idea that 7 schools were meeting cloak and dagger style for months. No, we did not have that information. No way, no how.
And the only reason why I think it's 7 is because they already know who the 8 is if they want it, and that's Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that's not going in the direction as them, so they don't want Notre Dame in the room to talk with them when they're talking over what type of deals.
I mentioned that on Twitter. I think the reason why it's 7 because the 8th would have to be Notre Dame for this to have any chance of working anyway. So
and people are talking Louisville now. Well, of course, some other schools are going to be like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm willing to talk to you too. So there's going to be a lot of bandwagon jumping on from schools like, and Louisville deserves to be there. Their athletic department is no joke.
Yep. I've heard the Louisville stuff too. I'll wait for, and nothing against people who've talked about it today, but I'll wait for Ross Dellinger or Brett McMurphy to confirm it. If they've confirmed it, then we'll start talking about 8 schools here at Peek Around the Corner. But until then, we'll keep it at the magnificent 7.
Can I leave you with one mind blower right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm saying before this counted on the lawsuit with Brown to matter, and I'm at the point now where I say the lawsuit with Brown doesn't matter anymore. Because there's going to be a significant window of opportunity for the Ivy League, but they're going to have to look at this and say, even if they win this, it's still going to keep happening in the future. And they have a window right now when the Pac empties out, merge with the Pac, become a Power 5 conference with the Pac, move to 10 by bringing all 8 schools in. Duke's going to join them in the future, go for 9. Johns Hopkins is actually going to leave the Big Ten if this happens, join them for 12, and you're just going to have this super elite conference.
Well, you're right. You're right. You're leaving us with the doozy. That's for sure.
There you go. I'm leaving you with that.
Okay, thanks. Great call. Larry Pilgrim, Mr. Utah man. I have information but can't share it. But we'll give it to you after it's been reported. Dang it, I don't really know what to say, Greg. Hoping for news.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan, can you hold on for just 1 second?
Sure.
Well, Larry, I do understand people's frustration that we can't give the details on what happened on May 6th, May 7th. One of those days is accurate. The other day is not accurate. In the hot bubble of action. But we have given news. We believe Gonzaga is not in the building. They're not in the parking lot anymore as of right now. We've given you a June 1st date when the Act 12 will begin. So I think we've given some news today. The only thing I will not talk about is the hot bubble of action, the event that had happened, and all the details that have been confirmed over and over and over again. And it was a shot to the solar plexus of the Pac-12. We're starting to learn the results of that shot. We don't think the Pac-12 is anywhere near a Pac-12 media deal. Ray Anderson basically confirmed it in his, I'm going to try to be nice here, in his comments today. So I think we've given some information, some news, but I will not give up the details. And when we do give up the details, when we do give up the information in the hot bubble of action, I think most of you will say, Greg, you played it right. You had to do what you did. I gave you the peak. I'm giving you the sense of what's going on. Pac-12's in a lot of trouble. Something happened. And I think once everyone finds out about it, I think people understand that we had to protect sources and the story. And so, Ryan Thomas, you are on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Greg. I just want to just kind of inform people about the various the cork board and yarn that I was putting in the comment section. Essentially, this is based on, so Royce Dickerson, who used to work for ESPN as an executive, is consulting he's consulting Apple TV on its Pac-12 deal. And based on some nuggets from another person that's been, pretty active in the DC area, who's got some media connections, I think we can put that together. He's been one of the voices out there. My understanding is Apple has been floating. This doesn't mean it's what's been agreed to or what the deal is, but Apple's been floating the idea that they would have all the rights to the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 would pay for production costs. And essentially, what would come from that was if there were certain tiers or target goals made of Apple TV Plus subscriptions, that base money would go up 25, start at 25, then it'd go up to 30, 35, 40, depending on the targets. And it would have to be Apple TV subscriptions, not just a season package for the Pac-12. And sort of behind that was, there seems to be this delusional notion right now that the Pac believes it can sublicense all its games. But the catch is in that arrangement, because Apple would likely be selling this as a season package and also on a game-by-game basis. The catch is that Apple would keep 100% of the profits on the sublicenses. And, I don't know what's going to go on there, and I don't really know who's going to buy that. I think that's something that's, that's certainly up in the air. I also think I had a disagreement with Jim about this because I think the VP of content for Apple TV Plus Sports being out has a huge impact on this, because whoever replaces him, she or he, may have a totally different vision and direction of where they want to go. So that's sort of on that front, but I think that's likely where that's headed. Now, going to the ACC, our topic du jour, I think it's interesting. My prediction, Greg, I think 24, 25 teams per conference is not realistic. I don't think the money's there. I just don't think it's feasible. I think what you're more likely to see is I could see Miami and Georgia Tech going to the Big Ten. If Notre Dame accepts membership in the Big Ten, then probably Georgia Tech is out. and then adding Oregon and Washington from the West Coast to get to its 20. I would then see UNC, Clemson, FSU, Virginia Tech, UVA, and NC State all in the SEC if this is what happens. I could see now this is where I think it gets very interesting. If Pitt, Syracuse, and Duke, which are and Louisville, so Louisville, Pitt, Syracuse, and Duke all have good basketball brands, fantastic basketball brands. And if they go to the Big 12, in addition to Arizona State, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado, when Brett Yormark takes the basketball rights separate to market in 2031, that could have a huge potential at closing the revenue gap. The Big 12 would still be behind the Big 10 and SEC, but closing that revenue gap with those basketball brands would have the impact to certainly make the Big 12 a decisive number 3. And I think that that's probably where this is more likely to head. I think I think that's likely where it's going to happen. I don't think the SEC is not poaching Oklahoma State. They're not doing that. There's no need to do that. The SEC doesn't do this on rivalries. I will say, and people think I'm nuts when I'm saying, the previous caller did have a point. I've said this, and I know you disagree, but I'm talking 15, 20 years out. The last thing, the SEC relies on brand, but in order for that brand to be strong, they have to maintain a chokehold on that region. And, that puts it in an interesting dilemma of whether or not it has to double up in markets or not. I certainly think that they will, at bare minimum, keep FSU out of the Big Ten's hands at all costs possible. And, I think I agree with you that that's why I think I see very easily Miami and Georgia Tech ending up in the Big Ten. I think that makes total sense. Two great markets for the Big Ten that fits right in their MO. And I see the interesting thing is when you get into North Carolina, it's still Southern culture. Yeah, you've got an emphasis on academics, but, the SEC is, add some more members like UNC and, UVA, that increases sort of the prestige there as well. But I sort of think that that's probably where this is headed. If we get to 25 or 24 teams, you're going to have antitrust issues. You're going to have a whole bunch of issues. And, I think we're probably moving more towards Power 3 at least in the long, maybe even in the short term. But I certainly think that getting beyond 20 teams is too difficult to manage. And I also think that that begins to cause problems kind of with a power vacuum within the conference. I just think that you're more likely to see this go to three teams of 20, three conferences of 20 teams. And I think, the Big Ten will have its, huge, have its 10 or $15 million advantage on the SEC. And then, the Big 12 will be 20, 25 million behind when you close in with the basketball money gap. But that's sort of my thoughts. That's my prediction.
Got it.
I think the Pac-12 is kind of in a unattainable position. I think they're relying on a lot of fantasy. I think some people buy it and some people don't. But I certainly think that San Diego State is not going to pay triple the exit fee to be expanded. And if they get left out, then basically the Pac-12 will destroy itself. But that's it. Take care, everyone.
Got it. Thank you. Great phone call. First of all, I want to say to the moderator, the one who rules with that iron fist, the little general, Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar. She's in her home country visiting her family. She says, miss you, Flugs. I miss you too, honey. That's the most important comment.
Call from
Mona Vision.
Moen Vision, can you just wait 1 second?
Knock yourself out, Greg.
Thank you, sir. I just want to read this David Hale, beat writer, ACC. He's there in Amelia Island, long-time beat reporter. He says, per one ACC athletic director, I know this has been put up in the this has been put up in the comments section. Per one ACC athletic director, zero credence to the idea that 7 or 8 teams are looking to leave. Everyone has reviewed the grant of rights, the GOR. Very close on a revenue sharing plan that would reward an on-field success. Any plan then go to the presidents for approval would not impact TV revenue, though. Okay, so they're very close, according to David Hale, who's being told this by one AC athletic director. They're close to a revenue sharing plan. Congratulations. I don't think it's going to mean a hill of beans. But the important part out of this tweet is zero credence to the idea that 7 or 8 teams are looking to leave. I would love to know, and I understand why David Hale did not put it in this tweet. I would love to know if that was an athletic director of one of the 7 magnificent 7 schools, the ones that have been meeting in secret for months, cloak and dagger style, or if it's one of the other 7 athletic directors. I understand why David Hale didn't tell us that, but I would love to know that. I would love to know that because, why are 7 schools meeting cloak and dagger style for months without the other schools knowing about it? Why did that happen for months if it wasn't about something huge like challenging the grant of rights, dissolving the conference, some crazy theories out there? What would they be meeting in secret about? It's not about changing the floor arrangements at the Pac-12 offices. It's not about possibly changing the conference championship trophy. If they're meeting in secret for months, and this got leaked out by Ross Gellinger and then confirmed by Brett McMurphy, it's something big. So I take that first part of that tweet. I'm not buying it. So anyways, thanks Mo and Vision for your patience. The floor is yours, Mr. Buckeye.
Well, even with that increased on-field performance, that's like putting lipstick on a pig, Greg. You're still going to be $40 million behind the Big Ten and the SEC, and the Big 12 still going to get to negotiate before you. That's great. They've got unequal revenue share now. It's instead of $40 million, it's $35 million this year. But
yes.
Just want to make a point. Everybody keeps saying, well, the SEC's not going to allow this. The SEC's not going to allow that. I didn't get the memo that the SEC was in charge of how these schools made their decisions. If it comes down to a choice between the SEC and the Big Ten, outside of football, there's really no selling point that the SEC has. The Big Ten has better academics. The Big Ten has bigger markets. The Big Ten has more money. The Big Ten has more research outlets. So I don't see the SEC just saying, going in and demanding that, we're just going to take Virginia and North Carolina, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think more than likely you'll see them split states. I think the SEC will get Virginia Tech. The Big Ten will get Virginia. The Big Ten will get North Carolina. The SEC will get North Carolina State. The SEC will get Florida State. The Big Ten will get Miami. And then, like I've made the case for, or wanted to make the case for, Georgia Tech would be the other team that I think the Big Ten would really be interested in. Yeah. Atlanta market, Georgia recruiting, top 5 engineering program to pair up with Purdue, outstanding school. But then I just wanted to touch base on your thoughts that Notre Dame could do anything to dissolve the conference. I just don't see how that's possible, Greg. They are not a full member of the conference. How could they have any say in dissolving the conference?
Well, I mentioned to you on Twitter, and I'm going to try to find that article sometime this evening. But when we did a live show on when we brought up the theory of dissolution of the ACC, because it was first sort of hinted at by the Florida State president, and then it was hinted at in the News and Observer in the Carolina paper, by the Louisville athletic director in the Lincoln. No, what do they call it? What's the Louisville paper? Dispatch, Courier Dispatch. There was a person who wrote an article about the state of North Carolina laws, and it had to do with a nonprofit organization. If they don't have it clearly stated that how to dissolve this nonprofit organization, it would go to a majority vote within the organization. And it talked about how Notre Dame would have a vote to dissolve. It was in that article. Now, that article may not be correct. The person who wrote it seemed like he or she knew what they were talking about. This was way back. I think it was 2022, maybe the first month we had this YouTube channel on. So I'm going to try to find that. I'll send it to you, and we'll talk about it on the show once again. It's in
I've read the article. I know what article you're talking about. It's pure speculation on his part based off of, various things. So I think if it was factual, I think that would have been leaked by now. But what I wanted to bring up is you say there's 7 schools and they need a number 8. I think Notre Dame's the number 8, but I don't think Notre Dame's the number 8 the way you think it is. I think it still relates to the Florida money perch saying Notre Dame has to leave first. I think they're trying to force Notre Dame to leave first, and then those 7 can proceed forward with a better option for destroying that grant of rights. I don't understand how that mechanism is going to work, but
yeah,
like you've discussed, Notre Dame has a special agreement with the ACC, and if they leave, then the other schools can contest the GOR based on Notre Dame having a special agreement that they don't have.
Yeah, on March 31st, we did a live show. March 31st, we did a live show. It's part 2 of the Florida State money perch, and he went through the options of what's the easiest, the viable ways that Florida State's looking at challenging the grant of rights within the court system. And the number 1 with the bullet is Notre Dame leaving first. Now, of course, Florida State doesn't have control of that, right? That's out of their control. But if Notre Dame leaves first, and I know you know this.
Control, Greg?
What?
Is it really out of their control? Did you ever stop to think that maybe this Magnificent 7 is all just a front to try to get Notre Dame to panic and leave?
Could be. You're going real cloak and dagger now, but you could be right.
But I mean, it's totally possible that could be the case.
Yeah.
And I want to make one more point.
Yeah, I'll let you go, and I'll explain that after you get off the phone. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Ryan had mentioned that 25 teams was too much for a conference. I tend to agree. I don't think there's going to be 3 25-team conferences. I do think the Big Ten gets to 24 because it makes more sense for the Big Ten. I can see the SEC sticking at like a 20 number and the Big 12 sticking at like a 20 number, maybe 22. But it doesn't all have to be 3 leagues of 25. There could be various options and various things going on there. But I would just reiterate, the SEC has no control of who the Big Ten approaches and who the Big Ten invites to their conference. It's going to be who has the best pitch. And I think for a lot of those schools, it's going to be the Big Ten.
We got it.
All right. Later on, Greg.
Beautiful. Great call. Thank you.
Call from
Soap from H-Town.
Soap, can you just hold for just 1 second?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is what I March 31st, part 2, Florida State Money Perch, explained to us the number 1 way, the best way for Florida State to challenge the grant of rights in the court system if Notre Dame leaves the ACC. In other words, Notre Dame could probably afford to leave the ACC. Their grant of rights attached with the ACC in the extended grant of rights from 2027 to 2036 only has to do with the money that the Notre Dame gets in relations to the ACC network and, of course, the NCAA tourney money and stuff like that. But, of course, Notre Dame is not tied to the grant of rights when it comes to the Tier 1, Tier 2 media contracts. If Notre Dame shall leave, if the Notre Dame Fighting Irish decides to leave the ACC and probably go to the Big Ten, decide to leave independent football and go to the Big Ten and all their sports, Florida State then believes that the considerations they received in that extended grant of rights from 2027 to 2036 is null and void. It isn't good enough. Because within that extended grant of rights from 2027 to 2036, all 14 ACC presidents signed that, and Notre Dame signed it. ESPN was the sugar daddy to build the ACC network. In that agreement, Notre Dame was going to be a part of it. So the value of the ACC network is much higher, of course, when Notre Dame's involved. If Notre Dame splits, Florida State believes that the value that they got, it's called considerations, when the extended GORE went from 2027 to 2036, now that is gone. Florida State doesn't believe that extended GORE should hold anymore. And then the grant of rights then goes back to the original one that goes to 2027. Well, we're already at 2023. You saw what happened with Alabama and Texas. That's the number one bullet shot right there that Florida State thinks they could win in the courts. But again, it takes Notre Dame actually leaving the conference. And I think Notre Dame, I think the walls are closing in on them. We don't have to go through that today. But go ahead, Soap. The floor is all yours, sir.
Great to talk to you, Greg.
Yeah.
I'm just a working guy like you.
Yeah.
But, the reality of the situation is that you have the smartest academic, athletic directors in the United States. They are at these institutions of higher learning.
Yes, sir.
And they are skilled in making money in athletics, dealing with billion-dollar companies like ESPN and Fox and so forth, over hundreds of billions of dollars. I say hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue that is going on. So this is not something. My point is that this is not something that is just off the whim. This is something that's been going on for quite some time, and the best minds out there have been working on. This is all your play, and your play is coming out exactly as you. That's a great analogy how you listed it as a play. We have to look at the things that we know.
Yes.
We know for a fact right now that Oregon and Washington would go to the Big Ten if they were offered. That's not a question.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, and we know equally that they need partners, or the Big Ten needs partners for USC and UCLA. So that's probably going to happen. That's 4 seats. That's 2 seats at the table that are gone. If we have 20 teams in 3 conferences, that's 60 seats. And right now, there are 16 seats available. And you just had, that would mean that you had Oregon and Washington taking 2 of them. Now you got 14 seats. Well, you're going to have Notre Dame has to be part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Then you have, you have your 4 corner schools. That's already been moving. And, as you outlined earlier, Colorado's right in the middle of the stage. They're just waiting to make the announcement. The moment that announcement comes down,
then Oregon and Washington are gone, and the Pac-12 is gone, and you're going to look for schools in Pac-12 scrambling for chairs in a league, and that's where you're going to look at those four corner schools. So then you got 6 teams. 6 of those 16 slots are gone. Actually, there are 9 left with Notre Dame taking it, and then you get the ACC involved. And this, why would there are 8 teams, 8 teams? Why would those teams say their names? What is the benefit of that? They only would say their names if they knew they had a landing spot, Greg. You would not give your opponent the opportunity. Either that, or this is a hell of a bluff, and they're going to come up with some kind of revenue sharing plan that's going to satisfy these schools for the next 5 years. But nobody is talking about the bottom line here. You know what's driving all this? Of course, money, but it's NIL money. It's NIL money because because you can't have. I donate to Texas Tech. I'm a Texas Tech alum. Yeah. If they come to me and say we need money for players, well, I'm not going to donate to the regular fund and to the NIL fund.
You're not double dipping.
I can only give so much money.
Yes.
So they got to find money somewhere. And I'll leave you with this.
Yeah.
I was very interested to hear that Gonzaga was not part of this because.
Not right now, they're not. Not right now. Things could change, but not right now.
I think Yormark is really looking at putting together a deal for just basketball schools. Duke would be a great addition to it. Syracuse, Connecticut, basketball-only schools, and then offer that to like Fox as a separate entity.
But Gonzaga may not want that. That's all. That's another hint. So
say that again, please.
Gonzaga may not want that.
Yeah.
They may want more. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. I understand that. I'm just saying that I think that I could see that. But I just think that if they're the way that the Big 12 is going to survive is making up that gap between the SEC and the Big 10 with revenue from basketball that the other schools aren't getting. If they can put a really good basketball plan together. But, hey, this is not by chance. You look at it, 60 teams, 12 spots in the playoffs, that's exactly 20% of the field makes it. And that's pretty much what all the major, the major leagues have is 20% of their field makes this playoff. This has been in the works for a long time. The play has been scripted for quite some time. Nothing is being done by chance. This is all by design by some very intelligent people who want an end result where they can sell the most things to you and I on TV commercials watching our beloved football.
Yep. Great call.
Greg?
Great call.
I'm out, brother. Take care of your. Hey, enjoy your bachelor time with the little general gone. The cat's away, right?
I'm so busy. There is no such thing as bachelor time. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a personal question? I'm down here in Texas. What part of Mexico is she from?
She grew up and lived in Mexico the first. She's first 28 years of her life. Mexico City. Mexico City.
Mexico City. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's the place to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my friend.
Thank you.
Again. Adios.
Yeah. Adios. Appreciate it. Hello. Oh, I lost the call. That's the first call we've lost. Hopefully we're not having phone troubles now. Okay. All right. A lot of great calls. Back to... It's cold right now between Gonzaga and the Big 12. Can it change? Possibly.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin, the floor is yours.
Mr. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, it's another beautiful Tuesday afternoon, not in June, but,
Yes.
coming soon.
Yeah.
I wanted to answer Monavision's question from earlier about Notre Dame and the ACC and why they have a vote. Notre Dame is a full member of the ACC. They, aside from football, they maintain their independence in football, but they are a full voting rights member of the ACC. That is they are the 15th member of the ACC. So that's why they are involved in all the discussions about dissolution and everything. The other thing I kind of want to throw out there is that I think a lot of people underestimate how badly Notre Dame wants to maintain their independence, how much they love being independent, and how much their AD controls that discussion. Like, NBC likes having Notre Dame home games to put on Saturdays. They would love it if they could play all 12 games at home and do that, but that's not possible. I think the thing that we're going to see is Notre Dame is going to try and find the same setup it has with the ACC right now with somebody else. They're going to try and find a way to maintain their independence. I don't think I kind of agree with what's been said a couple of times today that there's about 16 seats left. That a 60-team, upper echelon of Division I is kind of where we're headed. That's the equilibrium the market is going to set, which means 4 spots in the Big Ten, 4 spots in the SEC, 8 spots in the Big 12 left. I think Notre Dame is going to try and, again, continue to tough it out as an independent. And maybe they go, maybe that's how the Big Ten gets them and just says, like, hey, let's do this whole independence thing in a similar fashion to the ACC had it. Maybe they go to the SEC, maybe they go to the Big 12, maybe they try and raise another group such as the American or CUSA. You never know. But I look for Notre Dame to maintain its independence. That's my opinion. And I think the Big Ten has what it wants out west. I don't think that if the ACC explodes, implodes, whatever, I don't think they're going to stick around out west sniffing out there for very much longer. I think that they're going to take their 4 from the ACC and stand pat at 20. Maybe they go to 24, but you can't really do that without breaking into either the SEC or the Big 12 at that point. Yeah, that's my rant for today.
Okay, beautiful call. I agree with you. Quickly here, I agree with you on Notre Dame trying to maintain their independence. I think it becomes more and more difficult as the years roll on. That's what I really believe. Yeah. So,
I think that Notre Dame's independence is going to be the last thing to break. They are going to milk it for all it's worth, because I think Jack Swarbrick was quoted as saying that they realistically only need 10 or 15 million from whatever media deal they have with NBC to maintain their independence. Yeah. Assuming the ACC dies too, they could very well take all of their other sports to the Big East and negotiate an individual fee per school or per conference for their away games that they negotiate, and maintain their independence and stay away out of all of it for as long as they can. But I think in the end they're going to end up. I think there's enough history there. I don't think they end up in the Big Ten. Okay. I think that they try and find some other solution there, because ultimately, preferably, independence is where they want to stay. So
got it.
That's all I got for today.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. We've got some information coming in on our chat room. Thank you, Mr. Nick Jones. First of all, thanks for coming in to Peek Around the Corner into the chat, giving us this information. Marcelo, 247 Sports Writer, says Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford about speculation about the future of the ACC. I think a lot of that is overblown. The future of the ACC, in that room, we're together and we're coming up with solutions. Let's say there's a few other ones that that Nick Jones pointed out here. A weighted revenue distribution model is gaining support among ACC administrators, says Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford. Several models have been discussed. He says the merit-based model on postseason success could lead to more than $10 million in additional yearly revenue for a successful program. Okay, so you have to be really successful every single year to gain $10 million more dollars. What if you're only really successful getting in the playoffs every other year? Then you're going to average, what, $5 million more per year? That does nothing to the 35 million in growing gap. Okay, so it looks like they're coming out of this meeting. Rah, everyone together. They're going to pass some revenue sharing program. That's great. And we'll wait now. We'll wait until that first quarter, 2024, that the Money Perch talked about at December 26, 2022. We'll see if some school challenges the grant of rights, but right now, everything is rah, roses. Everything's beautiful. ACC country. Why 7 teams were meeting in secret for months? We'll find out. Wow, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but this is... Marcelo says, Alford said baseline distribution for programs were not dropped in proposed models. Okay, I think I know where this is going, ladies and gentlemen. I think I know where this is going. What they're doing is baseline distribution for programs would not drop in proposed models. In other words, what you get distributed to you as an ACC school through the ACC bylaws, the ACC gets the media money, distributes, that doesn't change. But the money that each ACC school is going to get when it comes to the expanded playoffs, that money's going to grow, right? The money isn't being distributed per conference anymore. It's being distributed per school. So it could be that every ACC school, just like every Big Ten school, if they don't make the playoffs, they're still going to get about maybe $22, $23, $24 million just off the expanded playoffs. We don't know what that number is, of course. But it could be about 20 million, a little bit more than 20 million per school. We don't know, but it's going to be a lot more than what every school is getting now. In fact, right now in the playoffs, this is the last year of the 14 playoffs, each conference was getting about $75 to $70 million distributed among the members of the conference. 2024, 2025, it's going to be distributed per school. Every Power 5 school is going to get the same amount of money. And then you're going to get more if you get to the playoffs. I think what they're talking about here now, as we peel the onion, as that they come out of the ACC meetings, I think what they're saying is the teams that are, the ACC schools, when you get that new revenue for the college football playoffs, you're going to have to peel off a few million and give it to the ACC schools that do make the college football playoffs. I think they're toying with the college football playoff money. Okay? So when Marcelo says that first of all, let me get to Cameron B. New ACC revenue equals you keep what you kill. Okay? Thank you for the super chat, Cameron B. Appreciate your continuous generosity to this program. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. I appreciate it. Dellinger, this $10 million number is around twice as much as many originally expected. ACC appears to be moving forward with an even greater unequal sharing model than the earlier proposals. I think they're really going into that new playoff expansion money. It looks like the schools in the ACC who do not really challenge, who are not in position to challenge, to get into the college football playoffs, are willing to give up a little bit of that new college football playoff money. Their basic distribution media money is staying the same. I think that is where we are going. Having said all that, an ACC school that is not making the ACC playoffs again is going to fall further and further behind the Big Ten and SEC schools that are not making the college football playoffs year in and year out when it comes to revenue. But that's not what Florida State and Clemson and that's not what they're concerned about. They want to be able to make more money if they are successful. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, we come out of this, and it looks like nothing's going to be happening in the ACC for a while. I agree with this statement. I agree with this statement. It's just that when your school now in the ACC who are not making the playoffs, you're not going to get all that new playoff money. I think that's where this is going, and it's going to... I don't know, guys. I do not know. But as Brett McMurphy has said, as Ross Dellinger has said, and all these reporters have said, if something breaks in the ACC, if something should happen here, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. I mean, this is not a story. This story is going to go on for a long, long time. We are at the middle of the beginning of this story. We're not even breaking this down into a play in a theater right now. Because it's way too early in this story. I don't think any of that has any impact on what's happened in the Pac-12 as we head into Act 11 for the next couple weeks, and Act 12 starts about June 1st. Elliot Cruz once again reports of the death of the ACC have been grossly exaggerated. Have they? Well, maybe they've been pushed off a little bit.
Call from.
It's immaculate.
Immaculate, you're back. The floor is yours, good sir.
Just wanted to say real quick how 25 is possible, if you don't mind. I don't want to go into more craziness because that was fun, but we don't need that anymore.
Yep.
So, for folks who, I've been following this since Penn State joined the Big Ten. And since 2015, everything has changed. You're aware of this, I'm sure, but most folks may not realize what happened in 2015. In 2015, some conferences tried to pass the $2,000 stipend payment to athletes, and they got crushed in the voting in the NCAA by Division III schools, by Division II schools, and they threatened to leave the NCAA over it. What they got in return for that was autonomous Power 5 voting status for athletic things, we'll say. So now they can control what they do. John Hopkins, that's nice. The reason why this hasn't happened, which is the obvious question for folks, is because they haven't had the votes within the Power 5. If you are the Big 12, the Pac, and the ACC, why would you help pass votes that make it easier for the Big 10 or the SEC to take your schools? You wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why would you do that? Why would you help them do that? So what we're seeing happen is the SEC taking the best from the Big 12, the Big 10 taking the best from the Pac, and now with everything going on with the ACC, you're seeing these conferences being picked apart, and it's about Power 5 votes. It's about money because you got to make it work in the process, but it's about Power 5 votes.
Yeah.
And so those 7 schools, the reason why they're talking room together is because they're likely all got the same plan. But if they get those votes all huddled together in the SEC and the Big 10 and say the Big 12 is willing to work with them enough, they can then pass these things whenever they want. What I say that they're going to do, conference tournaments and new division rules so they don't have to just have 2 divisions. When they do that, when they have conference tournaments, they have new games that don't exist on any current contract right now. That sparks renegotiation with all those networks. And when you spark renegotiation, you want to have the strongest position possible, so that way you just hold the other ones over the table and just spank away. When Big 10 and the SEC hold all the power they're going to have, when I say 25, you could say 24, 20, whatever people think. Everyone's got their own opinion on it. That's fine. So when they have that, that's when you're going to miraculously see these new rules passed for new divisions, conference tournaments, and how many scholarships they can have. And when that happens, the amount of money that they're going to have is going to blow people away. And so why would, you're looking at this saying, well, how does these 7 schools go in there get paid for? Well, the mechanism isn't created yet. So it's easy to not understand. Yeah. It's easy to not get how it happens because most people can't see this. They don't see this part of it. But this is what it's about. That's why when the Big 12 grabbed 4 schools, when Texas and Oklahoma left, they all of a sudden got a great deal because he grabbed 4 Power 5 votes. He replaced those 2 votes and gained 2 more. And the networks came in and said, okay, stop that. We'll pay you more for Power 5 schools than we will for G5 schools. So that's where we're at. And that's what this is about. They're gathering the votes, and then they'll pass the rules that allow for more money in college football than people could even fathom. And
but that's why, But that's why I think one of the many reasons why I think it gets more and more difficult for Notre Dame to keep their independence in football, because these super conferences are going to develop new revenue streams. One of them could be conference semifinal, have one of their conference games become that semifinal weekend. They're going to be able to bundle up their data to sell to sports books. They're just going to be able to come up with more and more ways to make money that Notre Dame's not going to be able to keep up with. So
and NBC is not giving them an extension. Like, why would they? They have all the games they need in the Big 10.
Yeah, the incentive for NBC to do that is less than ever. Even though Notre Dame is an incredible brand, unbelievable, powerful. We all understand that. But we have learned that bundled up Tier 1 content is more valuable than a standalone Tier 1 content. We have learned over the years that a bundled up Tier 3 content when it comes to conference networks, that's the SEC network and the Big 10 network and the ACC network, is more valuable bundled up than the standalone content of the Longhorn network that Texas had. So that's what Notre Dame is facing. They're facing extreme headwinds. I know they want to stay independent. They have strong desire to stay independent. But things keep changing and it keeps developing, and I think the walls continue to close on Notre Dame, and you just brought up some more reasons why I think that.
Yeah, Notre Dame wants all that. You're 100% correct. But they parked hockey in the Big Ten for a reason. It wasn't just because they want to play hockey with the Big Ten. It actually gives them a bit of an out. Like the ACC and the whole deal with them, I don't want to go into specifics, but it actually gives them a bit of an out because they're already part of the Big Ten. They don't need a vote.
Let me explain. I am not patting myself on the back because I can't reach, but we were the ones that on Twitter that broke the news that the Notre Dame and the Big Ten were talking to each other for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten in hockey. It was much like the USC story, but it was a couple years before that. We put out a couple tweets. We got raked through the coals, and then it broke. The reason why Notre Dame really, truly joined the men's Big Ten Hockey Conference is because Notre Dame was getting tired of they were not a fit. They were not a fit out east in hockey. They thought they were going to be, but they kept getting voted again. When issues came up in the hockey conference, the votes were always stacked against them. The travel, the bus rides from the airport to the actual arena, they figured it out. They sat and they figured out that if they joined the Big Ten, it was actually easier travel hockey, and were more like-minded schools, and that's why they made the decision. The Big Ten did bend their knee. The Big Ten did bend their knee and said that Notre Dame hockey home games would not have to be played on Big Ten Network, that Notre Dame could still have their relationship with Peacock and all that stuff for their hockey. But so that's why they left to join the Big Ten hockey. But go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, that was all good. I was interested in listening because I didn't know all those details.
Yep.
And from what I hear of you saying that, it's kind of the same thing with Johns Hopkins. What Big Ten's done with both of them is let them in the door, so that way at some point in time in the future, it's very easy for them to do more. It's already in the writing of their contracts and everything like that. So yeah, they let them in the door. They got them in the door. And so now there's no interference if they talk with Notre Dame about more because they're already part of them. It's not interference. So, but that's basically, I just wanted to go there. I know some folks are saying they didn't see how it's possible, and they could think that what I was saying was crazy because, part of it was. Some of it was for fun. But the reality, the true reality about it is it's right now it's all about Power 5 votes, and it's about the ability to create intense wealth in the future when they control that.
Yeah. Yes.
The Pac, ACC, and the Big 12 were blocking that. That's why it didn't happen initially. And everything that the Big Ten and SEC have been doing has been to break that.
Yeah.
And Yormark came in and kind of brought the Big 12 in line, and now you're seeing everything is happening so quickly. It's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Because I've been following this so long, and everything would happen per month. But anyways, that's it.
Got it. Thanks.
Showed usual, and thanks for having my call.
Great call. Elliot Cruz, Notre Dame has to join the ACC if they join any conference in the near future. Elliot Cruz, you might want to check out Heather Dinich, ESPN. She did a deep dive on this last year. The information that she got back is Notre Dame, if they take all their sports out of the ACC conference, they would be freed up to join another conference. So I know that's been around for years. We believe that's a myth at Peek Around the Corner that they would have to join the ACC. Heather Dinich, do a Twitter search, do a Google search on that. Do we have somebody on the line?
Call from
Ryan Matson.
Ryan Matson, thanks for calling. The floor is yours, good sir.
All right. Before I begin, I just want to say, just so crazy, all the stuff that's happening right now. And if Golden Blue Dude was still around, he would be loving it. This
Yeah,
time.
I know.
So many videos be out right now.
I know. And if things go the way I think they're going to go, we're going to do something special in dedication to him on this channel.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So, but we'll see how it goes. But yes, I understand. I think about that all the time. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're good. The reason why I wanted to just talk today was I've been hearing like on the calls and stuff, or even like on Twitter about like FSU. It'd be crazy to have for the SEC to let them go to the Big Ten kind of a thing. And I just wanted to bring up the point that there's been some media out there that's been very consistent. It kind of reminds me of you, like Spear Addicts Media. There are a couple other FSU media ones as well, and they've been talking for like the last year or two about FSU is really doing a lot to make their image more appealing and making their brand better, so they would be a better fit to be in the Big Ten. And that's just one thing I don't want people like overlook that kind of a thing, because I do see their points when they talk about FSU, and they're making a lot of good cases for them building up to be in the Big Ten in the future. Who knows when that will be, but I think they're making that push. They want to be in the Big Ten potentially, and I just don't want to overlook that. I've been hearing it, on some calls and on Twitter and stuff, and I think FSU, these guys really know FSU very well, and they're making a big stance, and they've been sticking to their guns with it too, that Big Ten is where they want to go, and that's their goal. So we'll see what happens, but
Yep.
I've been noticing that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they've been saying it for years too, which is awesome. Yeah. But it's one of those things. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yep.
I think anybody would be willing to take FSU. I would love them here in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Only time will tell.
Yes.
Where everyone's going to go. So.
Yes.
And I do have a question for you, Greg.
Yep.
Going back to Notre Dame, any updates like with them and NBC right now in negotiations? I really haven't heard anything lately.
I don't know of anything. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. It's hard to catch everything. So.
Yes, it is. That's it, and that's why one of the reasons why we do this show. When we do this show, people have a lot of input in the comment section and the phone calls, and we're all trying to keep up.
Yeah. It's just too much, and unfortunately, we just don't have enough time in the day for it all. But hey, thank you for your time. I know this is a really busy day for you.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
You take care. Yeah, Scotty Ma.
Great call. Stephen McNeely says, didn't we decide Notre Dame has to leave the ACC first for it to implode? I don't think we decided that. I think according to our Florida State money perch, it would be the easiest way, the most clear pathway if Notre Dame would leave first. That's what we were told. But again, remember everybody, our Florida State money perch, not infallible. He did not know about this Magnificent Seven, or whatever you want to call them. The 7 schools meeting in cloak and dagger style for months. Yeah, he didn't have that information. So, Woo! Jesse Wilson, good evening to you. Jesse from the state of Alabama, big Washington Husky fan. Elliot Cruz, to clarify, I don't think Notre Dame is going to join the ACC. I think they will remain independent. They're definitely going to try. They're going to try to stay independent. I think it's going to get more difficult. Flugar for Big Ten Commissioner. Kirkpatrick, I am not liked by the Big Ten. There's a whole story behind that. I won't even be able, if I apply for the Big Ten media stuff that goes on, their spring, their football media days, their spring meetings. If I applied for that, I would not get accepted. So there's no way they're going to vote for me for Big Ten commissioner. Immaculate, I think Greg said at one time Notre Dame could buy out of the Gore for $35 million. I think we said it would be somewhere between $120 to $140 million. Again, just estimates. Nobody really knows. And I will reiterate that nobody has seen the ACC extended grant of rights. That's in Greensboro. It's in Greensboro behind a lock and key in a vault. None of us have seen it. It's not open for FOIA. It's not in emails. No one can take pictures of it. The extended grant of rights that was signed for 2027 to 2036. None of us have seen it. Only lawyers that represent ACC schools and athletic directors. Illabuck says, David Hood at TigerNet says, Notre Dame is talking with Big Ten. Well, if someone, I know David Hood doesn't know me, but I know his, I've done a couple of his articles lately on our show episodes. If that is something new, somebody go to TigerNet and send that to me on my Twitter, in my DMs. Someone can do that. Illabuck, if you have a Twitter account, my Twitter account is in the ticker at the bottom of the screen at Flug Empire, at FLUGEMPIRE. So give that to me if that is a recent article. Tu Masta comes in and he saves me. Heather Dinich, if Notre Dame were to withdraw from the ACC, it can play football wherever it wants. It would have to pay an exit fee and grant of right fees for its other sports. Yeah, it would have to entirely take themselves out of all ACC, out of the ACC network, pay the exit fee, pay the grant of rights, damages, whatever, pile it all up. Then it can join a conference, whatever conference it wants. So thank you to Master for finding that for me. I do appreciate it. Again, it's earlier today. Please someone send me that TigerNet article ASAP. ASAP.
Call from
Western Civic.
Western Civic. Can you just hold on for 1 second?
Of course.
Everybody and anybody in the chat or anybody who's listening to me anywhere on this blue ball we call Earth, send me the TigerNet article. Give it to me in my DM on my Twitter. I would appreciate it so very much. It's one thing to keep your head on a swivel, which is fantastic, but please send me that. Please send me that article. Okay, Western Civic, I apologize. The floor is yours.
So I think I found a school out west that might even be worse than UNLV.
Okay.
It's called Northern Arizona University. These people had weeks of notice that Bill Gates was going to be on their campus, and there wasn't even a single protest. Oh, okay. I digress.
Got it.
But yeah, they just dropped below UNLV in my estimation of not very good public universities. But okay, let's forget that. The ACC, these 7 schools, they intrigue me. Anyone who's read the full memo should know that we basically have those 7 schools plus 2 more, Tulane and Georgia Tech, going to the SEC. Except the weird thing here is Duke. We had Duke, not North Carolina State. So
who
I'm
had
not an
Duke?
expert up. I'm sorry?
Who had Duke?
Well, see, and that's it. The one inside scoop that I got last summer.
Got it.
I was
okay.
told the number 25 specifically, just like your earlier caller. And then those are the schools that we had. And so NC State, if you look at the SEC, they've got a football program. The other model for the state school, I guess, would be Mississippi. But what happens with Duke? Who knows? What's going on with Duke? I think the other two slots, if Duke's not going to make it, are they dropping football? Are they going to pull a Cal? What's going on with Duke? Who knows about Duke? I'm very curious.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I don't know. But go ahead. I don't know the answer.
Yeah. So that's all. That and then whatever stories are coming out of Georgia Tech. I mean, if the idea is that Duke and Georgia Tech are going to join up and make a pitch for the big, I don't know. What do you think of that, Greg? That doesn't seem right. Duke is starting not to fit in this program somehow. They're an AAU school. Their football's no good.
Yeah.
But they're ahead of UConn in that sense. They don't really compare to UConn. They're private. So what happens to Duke? And I'm intrigued in that. Of course, if you look at the history of the SEC, all the stuff with Georgia Tech and Tulane is fascinating history. But I do think those are the other two slots. But has NC State taken Duke's spot in the SEC? Is that what we're looking at? Anyway, Greg, Thanks for being there. That's all I got for you today.
Thank you.
No war.
No war. Got it. No war.
All right. See ya.
I was just on TigerNet. I didn't see anything about David Hood talking about Notre Dame, talking to Big Ten. If someone sees that, please send it to my Twitter account at Flug Empire. Duke, I don't know. I mean, before the Magnificent Seven was listed by Brett McMurphy, I took a guess. It was purely a guess. And I hit on all seven. I had North Carolina State in that seven and not Duke. Because I figured if North Carolina, Chapel Hill, if they were having secret meetings with 6 other ACC schools and it had to do with something huge, right? Something massive, then they better have the other North Carolina public school in that meeting. North Carolina State. So when you put in all the public schools, Virginia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, that's already 4. Then the other 3 were Clemson, Miami, Florida, and Florida State. So Duke wasn't a part of it. But yeah, you know what? The ACC, like we've said here at Peek Around the Corner, we're in the middle of the beginning. We're not even at the end of the beginning of this story. This is going to go on. Now, it was a huge surprise to me about the Magnificent Seven. No question about it. It looks like from comments coming out of this ACC meeting, it looks like everybody is in love with each other again. They might have a revenue sharing plan. Mike Alford came out of there and said this is not going to really help us with the gap between us and the Big Ten and the SEC. But can we maintain our competitiveness if we take this revenue sharing plan? I don't know. I don't know, because no matter, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work, but I don't think it's going to work. Back to your comments, your phone calls, 763-260-1333. Again, thanks to all of you for joining us here once again this afternoon, May 16th, Pac-12. We believe that we know that Act 11 has begun. It's going to go on for about 2 weeks. Act 12 is going to be around June 1st, and we'll see what happens. Act 11, Colorado's in the middle of the stage. Arizona was on the edge of the stage, but took a few steps closer to the middle. Gonzaga got in their car in the parking lot, and they took off back to home. for now. UConn is sitting in the back row taking notes. Oregon and Washington are in the front row with a Fox executive in the middle. And Oregon and Washington are taking phone calls. They've got their phone up to their ears. They keep talking. That's Act 11. That's the scene. Arizona State, can't find them. Can't find them. Just like in Act 10, we could not find them. Act 11, we could not find them. Earlier today, Ray Anderson, the Arizona State athletic director, comes out and says, I don't know, I don't even want to post a tweet anymore. I did it a couple times. Something about we're a viable conference. We're good. It looks like we're going to get a media deal done sometime in July or August. July or August? And then he says, after we get the deal done, we're going to quickly turn to expansion. San Diego State has to pay $17 million exit fee. If they leave, if they tell the Mountain West Conference that they're leaving the conference to join the Pac-12 before July 1st, they have to pay a $17 million exit fee. After July 1st, it's triple that. Triple. So I don't know. I don't. It's not going to last this long, guys. It's just not going to go that long. So if that's the case, if Ray Anderson, what he said, his perception is reality, if he's accurate in the statement about a July or August deal on this media deal, that means, of course, the Pac-12 is nowhere close to getting the deal done right now. And that's what we've been saying here at Peek Around the Corner. They're not close. They're just not close. Maverick Buster, when do the Big Ten and the SEC turn on each other for schools? Thank you so much for your super chat, Maverick. I appreciate your generosity to the show. Boy, I do not see it coming. I know a lot of people speculate on Texas A&M going to Big Ten. I don't think there's a shot. I don't think Vanderbilt's leaving the SEC. And I don't know a school in the Big Ten that would leave for the SEC. Maybe someday down the road, if one conference becomes way more healthier and wealthier than the other, I don't see it happening. But realignment never sleeps. That's the first rule in realignment. It never sleeps. But I don't think, what act is the ACC in? I don't know, but it's early, guys. It's early. It is early. That story has a long ways to go. And that's why maybe I was the most surprised about the Magnificent Seven. We took the big L on that one here at Peek Around the Corner. We did not see that coming. But interesting weeks and months ahead. But it's going to take... This isn't going to wrap up this month. This is why... Yeah, does this ACC story have a little bit of impact in what's going on in the Pac-12? Yeah, it does. It does. It does. But what's going on in the Pac-12 in large part has nothing to do with what's going on in the ACC. Opie, thank you so much for your generosity. You are a very, very good friend to the show. I wonder, Opie says, I wonder if North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech would try to go as pairs to a conference. I don't see the Big Ten taking pairs. But I can see the SEC doing that. Just wondering if that was discussed between them, those schools. As Opie, you better believe that all these athletic directors are talking to each other. Mike Alford have said it Florida State's athletic director, just a couple days ago in an article, War Chant, said, well, I've been talking to everybody. Everybody's been talking to everybody. And would the SEC take one state? If and when the ACC implodes, and I think it's years down the road, but if and when it implodes, is the SEC taking Virginia schools, Big Ten taking North Carolina schools, or vice versa? Or do both conferences take one of each? I don't know. I always had this suspicion about North Carolina. In one hand, the SEC is going to do all they can to get them. On the other hand, North Carolina and Jim Delaney, the 25-year former Big Ten commissioner, have such close relationships. You know Jim Delaney's been talking to Bubba Cunningham and President Gusowitz of North Carolina. You know Jim Delaney has been talking to both of them about conference realignment. There was FOIA requests made by News and Observer that really went into the text messages of in and around email messages in and around June 30th of 2022. Jim Delaney talked to Bubba Cunningham. There's a lot of... Jim Delaney is a North Carolina grad. Regardless, North Carolina is a massive target for both conferences. And however that swings, I think really affects Virginia, Virginia Tech, and possibly North Carolina State in those scenarios. Those schools have been talking with the Big Ten and the SEC, but how it plays out, Opie, I do not know. But thank you so much for your super chat, your continued support to this channel. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Immaculate says the Big Ten wants UNC, but the SEC isn't going to take anyone from the ACC if it means UNC going to the Big Ten. And the Big Ten cannot do this alone. Not before the grant of rights runs out. They can't do it alone. Buckshot Kid, YouTube, David Hood and ACC meetings at 4:30 minute mark. Okay, let us know what David Hood said. I can't really go into another YouTube channel right now. Elliot Cruz says no one is leaving the ACC anytime soon. I agree with that unless it's Notre Dame. He didn't say much of anything. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So we've been on the air for 2 hours and 8 minutes. I think we're going to call it a day for now. We could pop up at any time. So if you're new to the channel, before you leave, please subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of when we come up next. And follow us at Flug Empire on our Twitter, because I do give most of the time a little bit of a heads up on when we're going to come on next. We could pop up at any time because things are hot. Things are crazy in college football and in college athletics. Thank you so much for sticking with us here at Peek Around the Corner and another afternoon live show. Stick with us because a lot of things are going on in the Pac-12. We are in, no question about it, Act 11. Think we're going to be there for a couple weeks. June 1st, Act 12 begins. Buckle up, brace for impact, and we'll see what happens. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, 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 you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.